Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is April 14th. It's Thursday when I'm recording this, and tomorrow, which is Friday, is a holiday. The market is closed for Good Friday. And so wanted to get this out a little bit early for you guys, and you'll be seeing it when you can. Anyway, if you have any questions about me, what I offer, how I trade, anything else like that, you can come over to profitpilot.com. What I wanted to show you was this newsletter that I did just the other day, and it was talking about GBTC, Bitcoin. So I like to use the GBTC ticker. I like to see it that it just works for me as far as I read it. And this is some of the calls, some of the alerts that I actually had in my stock trading room, the Moxie trading room. And you can see that they were dated back from March 30th and March 31st. And basically, I was guiding my subscribers as to what I was seeing based on the patterns that I teach. And so the fact that I have these patterns, I know what area, portion the ticker is in that pattern. And so for something like GBTC, Bitcoin, I could say like, hey, this was already up here and it was up here, and because it's halfway through the pattern, it should be coming back down. And here's my target. And you guys, I have actually made a video of this, so you guys can go check it out. But you can see that it came all the way back down to exactly where I was figuring it would go. And so this is the kind of stuff that I teach and provide to my subscribers. So if you guys like how I view the market, how I describe this stuff, how I guide the subscribers, then come on over and check me out over here. You can check out services and go on from there. So just a little bit, I want to tell you about that since that worked out so nicely. And it's actually, but we've been getting a lot of trades working out very, very nicely in that way. So yesterday with the little teaser, I left you guys off with the S&P and then also a lot of commodities. And that is what we have been seeing is the S&P, the markets are basically pretty weak, but commodities are strong. And that has to do with inflation and just our supply chain stuff. And it is just an absolute mess out there. Now, I am recording this video before the market is closed, so just kind of keep that in mind. And what I'm looking at for the S&P is that we do have a Moxie trigger, for the downside on the weekly chart. So this is why I'm fairly bearish on the market. I think that we should be seeing more lows eventually. The question is, when is that going to happen and what's the path? And right now, we have the S&P basically sitting on the daily 50. Now, it could bounce a little bit. I was more thinking it's just kind of going to hang out there until it does fall lower. But I've at least factored into my analysis and my trading that there could be just a little bit of a bump up before it rolls over like that. Something to that extent. But if we look at the hourly chart, if we get a bump up, no matter where it goes, if we get a bump up, that is price trying to go up across a downtrending moving average, which is a conflicting angle. It's conflicting directions. And we have the Moxie indicator below zero. So at this point, I know the indicator well enough that if we got price to move like this, the indicator is not going to get over zero. So that puts us into an inverse trampoline move, whereas price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. So even though there could be a bounce, it's not a bullish bounce. I think it's going to be a bull trap, and I would be very, very wary of any kind of up moves in the near future. Otherwise, I suppose what could happen is we just kind of bump around here for a little bit and we just go straight down like that. So both things are in order, and I do think that we're generally going to be heading down at some point. If we look at the IWM, it is the weakest of the bunch, it's doing weaker than the Nasdaq, which we know. And there was a level right here, and you can see that this bump right there went right into that resistance. That's why I'm saying that on a different scale, a move up is really just a pullback and a downtrend. And so that's why I'm talking about the S&P. If the S&P has a little move up, it's a move up into a downtrend. So I'm going to be very careful about this, thinking maybe we're going to go down. If I'm wrong about that, we will see it later. But for now, this is doing that inverse trampoline move situation that I was talking about. Price should not be over the moving average if the Moxie indicator is below zero, and price is trying to move up across a downtrending moving average. So just give a little bit more time. Today, Thursday, is options expiry since tomorrow is a market holiday. And so I just figured there's going to be a whole lot of chop as probably a few $1 trillion worth of positions needed to be unwound today. So let's kind of go through that. And then I'll show you the UVXY. We've been kind of keeping an eye on this one. The thing that I've been talking about mostly is if we look at the weekly chart, there is a double bottom right here. Now, I know it doesn't reference very well to the market itself, but this is something to be paying attention to. Why is the UVXY basing, double bottoming on the weekly time frame? This is usually a perpetually declining product, and the fact that it has stopped going down at this point kind of has me on high alert as far as something going on with it. The other thing I'm seeing is my common elf shoe pattern is starting to set up again. Now, that doesn't mean it has to work. It's something I'm keeping an eye out for, but basically, double bottom is what I'm looking for, and we tend to see a fairly big move after that. Now, if this thing goes, typically I see about a 50% move on UVXY when it does, and so that would put it that upwards of about $20. So I could definitely see that going there if the market rolls over in a big way. All right, so now let's go talk about some of the commodity stuff. So uranium, URNM is the one of the ETFs that we can talk about. And just look on this weekly chart. I mean, it is in an uptrend, clearly. It's looking pretty darn good. You can see that it pulls back basically to the weekly 50s and continues going. It's looking good. We've got great days. We've had a great couple of days in this. And one of the ones that I was trading, UEC, I think, as I said yesterday, we're in this and we're positive something 25% or so. And what I was looking at, again, you can see here pulled back into the moving averages. This was a trampoline move since the Moxie indicator was still above zero, despite price being below the weekly 50. And I wasn't really paying too much attention to uranium back when all this was happening. So when it got onto my radar, I had to really kind of wait for, well, quite a few days until it finally did what I wanted it to do. And I was watching the variety, the sphere of uranium stocks and trying to get a total picture, basically. But the daily Moxie indicator, I mean, that thing just looks amazing. You can see here that's when the Moxie indicator went positive. There's a pretty decent pullback right there. Again, I wasn't really watching these at that time, and so when I became aware of, like, I already knew about them, but I wasn't watching them. And so when I realized that this was probably going to be a group that was going to start moving, I started to pay attention to right here. You can see on UEC on the daily chart that price pulled back into the daily 21 and just held very, very nicely. And if we look at the hourly chart, you can see the hourly 200 was also in a very nice 45-degree uptrend. And you could see that basically price was flagging sideways into that moving average right there. And so I was watching it, and I think we nailed this thing right about there as it was coming out of it. And so from here to here, something mid 20% type moves. And then even UU was another one. You can see they travel in packs and they bring their friends. This one had a couple dips below the 21, but basically same kind of thing. Just kind of held right there at the 21, the daily 50 coming up. There was the Moxie price trigger doing really, really well. And we got this one right here as it pulled back into the hourly 50. And then there was another pullback into the hourly 50 right there. So pretty good, clean, sweet setups on uranium. Kind of goes along with the whole energy thing that's going on out there, maybe alternative fuels, good news like that, Russia, Ukraine situation. And then, I think, well, honestly, we're trying to go green. And I think for now, uranium with, doing fission reaction, I think we're coming up with better technology about this stuff and how to actually use nuclear reactors better. So we haven't really created a new nuclear reactor, a big one, since the 1960s, or at least they've all been designed back in the 1960s. All right, so we got that. If we look at UNG, this thing just keeps screaming. It is absolutely on fire, no pun intended, and it is just absolutely incredible. We got this thing right in here as price broke out from the weekly 200, so right through there. I've been watching it for a while, and then it just kept going. I mean, this thing it's like an absolute beast. We took some profits, I want to say, kind of right about here, and then it just kept going. So we're still in it. We just kind of took a little bit off the top just in case. And at this point, I would imagine that there should be a pullback at some point. I mean, as I said, this thing's getting pretty crazy and it's gone straight up. They don't always go straight up like this. And so, yeah, I would not initiate a long position here. We've already been in. And in fact, we are in Boyle, which is the leveraged ETF of this. And I think I want to say we probably got in from around here. We're probably upwards of 70% gain on this thing. I haven't done the calculation on it yet. So yeah, we're looking pretty solid on that thing. But yes, at some point this thing's getting a little bit frothy. It's getting really up there. It's gone vertical. And we've seen that with the other commodities like wheat, gold, oil. They've all gone vertical at some point, and then they take a pretty hard break and consolidate for a while. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to happen at some point with UNG. All right, then speaking of that, oil, USO, this is kind of what I was talking about when I said, hey, when these things go vertical, they don't last forever. And you can see here that USO went straight up like that, got really, really, really overbought, and then just finally broke and pulled back pretty hard. I mean, you can see this came all the way back down to the daily 50, bounced again, and then kind of started to find its equilibrium right here as it then ran into the daily 50 again. Oil looks like it's taken off again. Looks great. We actually started making a few trades in here, but you can see here it's got your little triangle, and it looks to me like it's starting to break out. So good move on that one. I knew it was just a matter of time until oil started again. It just got too overbought, but then it kind of flagged sideways, and now it should be going up again. But yeah, real nice trade right here into the daily 50 and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, commodities, energy, ooh, it's going up. All right, then speaking of that, Moo. Moo. This is agribusiness, so this is one that might be interesting if you guys are into it. Yeah, it's a little bit up here, but we've seen in the past that this thing likes to run for quite some time. So yeah, if you don't mind being a little late to the party, I think that there's still more party left if you want to get into something like this. And right here it was a little bit overbought, pulled back into support, and then continued up like that. So yeah, that's looking pretty good for that one. So that's Moo. And then okay, we talk about gold. Gold was another one that got super super crazy, and you can see it almost looks exactly like gold, and just kind of what it did. A huge move up like that got way overbought up there on the daily chart, and then it needed to kind of chill out, come back down a little bit. And as that kind of like oil, these things are bullish. It just got ahead of itself. And so, okay, when is this thing going to go again? And I've been watching it for a while, kind of just flagging in through here at some point. I figured I knew at some point it was going to go again. And you can see here, bounced right off of the daily 50. Pretty sweet. Took another few days, just consolidate a little bit more in through there. And we nabbed it right there on the hourly chart as gold started to move up. Gold miners. I mean, you name it, these things look like they're going up. And then I could see that it was getting a little bit overbought in the near term. You can see that because there was a bit of a gap right through there. And so today, when there was a bit of a pullback here, I sent an alert out to my subscribers, said, hey, this looks like this is probably going to be a pretty good dip to buy. And the reason I said that is because, let me see if I can maximize this. The reason, let me zoom in, that I said that is because here is the Moxie price trigger, and here is the Moxie price trigger. And then you can see here is a pullback, and you can see here is a pullback. Looks almost identical, doesn't it? That's why I'm saying that this little pullback made for a nice continuation, and this pullback is going to be probably a nice continuation right there. So gold miners, all that kind of stuff looking pretty darn solid. Again, with the commodities and kind of defensive, that's where everything is going. And then silver, that one's going too. There are some good silver tickers if you guys want to look at out there. I'm just going to show you the overall ETF that this is, and you can see, yeah, it's looking good, pretty good. Came in here, bounced off the daily 50. I mean, it's looking like a version and a variant of gold. So very very nice on that one. Silver, precious metals, those kind of things are going up. All right, then some of the bigger stocks that we can kind of take a look at. We talk about Apple, and one thing I want to show is look at this weekly time frame. And again, if you guys are not familiar with my patterns and what I talk about, then yeah, definitely come over to profitpilot.com. Go take a class that I have recorded. If you can't find it there, then head over to simplertrading.com and just search for my kind of stuff. But you can learn more about what I do. But here's what I talk about. Here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, there's the ball of the foot. I bet this thing is going to go a little bit lower like that. I would not be surprised that if the S&P really gets going to the downside, that we eventually see Apple hit that lower third ATR on the weekly time frame. That's all the way down to 140. I know that might be a big deal, but this pretty much looks like a double top right there. So do be careful if that is a problem for you. And on the daily chart, I think we talked about this before. Let me kind of get my scaling correct. There you go. That looks nice. And what we can see here is, and I've been warning about this with the NASDAQ, with Amazon, with the SPY. I even talked about Apple a few times. Here is price over the daily 50, but where's the Moxie indicator? It's below zero. So despite this being a pretty good move up like that, I knew, and I was telling everybody this. This is the same thing I just showed at the beginning of this video about Bitcoin returning back to the daily 50 because of my indicator, because of the patterns I know. I was saying at some point this move is going to at least head back down to the daily 50 because the Moxie indicator was still below zero. That's an inverse trampoline move, and price should not be over there. It should pull back, and that's exactly what it's doing. Now, it seems to me this is going to continue to be weak and probably continue to fall off and over. Now, it could maybe bounce around a little bit, but ultimately, I think that we're going to be resuming to the downside, and I just don't see much upside in this market. And in fact, the most recent thing you can see right here, the little bounce over the last day or two went right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, and notice that the Moxie indicator is still very much below zero. So just do be careful about your bullish situations out there. Another one, Tesla. Probably a lot of news out there with Elon, Tesla, Twitter. Check that kind of stuff up. I'll show you Twitter in just a second. But same kind of deal. This one was very late. Now, the Moxie indicator has fired, but it was very late. This whole time that price was over the daily 50, the Moxie indicator was below zero. And so I was telling people, hey, it's just a matter of time until this thing pulls back. Yes, it might be a little bit stronger than some other ones, but it's going to pull back too. And you could just see how overbought it was because there was a giant gap between price and the moving average on that weekly time frame. Same thing as Apple, just kind of flagging, bouncing, flagging sideways into a downtrending hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is below zero. So, down, down, down. There might be some bounces, but overall, everything is going to be trending down. It has not touched the daily 50 yet, and I figure it's going to go at least to the daily 50 and probably further. Now, if we go over here and we talked about Twitter, since Elon Musk and all that has been happening, there was I think it was today or last night, I saw he posted even on his Twitter page that he made an offer to buy out Twitter for $54.20. Where's the joke in there? Well, if you knock off the 5, it's 420. So he likes to kind of have fun with those kind of things. Pretty interesting. So it did go. If you look at the overnight, it got pegged up to $54.20. And it basically started to fade and fall off that night or in the morning. And my guess is, somebody knows something. I'm sure the bigger players probably know something, and maybe they are collecting this. But gosh, I got to say that for all the news that's going on here, this is following my patterns. This is the 50-250 maneuver that's happening. And we still have the elf shoe thing here because if we look here, we got the leg, the heel. This is the arch of the foot. So I'd like to see price come back down more, ball the foot, and then we kind of move up like this. Now, that's the pattern I like. It seems to be panning out so far, but you got to be careful with Twitter, or or at least maybe roll the dice, because either this gets bought out and it gets bought out for $54 and it goes right there. Maybe it gets bought out for $45. I don't know. And then it goes down. It really kind of depends. We just don't know what if the deal falls through and people start selling it. So just understand that even though there might be some upside potential for this, it is a bit of a hot potato. It's in the news. It's getting talked about a lot. There are some big players involved with this, and you'll just have to decide if you want to be along for the ride for wherever that might go. Pretty exciting stuff that's happening. So you guys take care with that, and I will see you at the next week. So enjoy the long 3-day weekend. You guys take care.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.